One of the greatest actors of our time, Mr. James Earl Jones, and throughout his career and personal life, he has faced extraordinary challenges and has reached new heights at every turn. James Earl Jones writes about his very remarkable life in this autobiography, appropriately titled James Earl Jones, Voices and Silences. It is a great pleasure to welcome Mr. James Earl Jones. Because you are so known for your voice, because it has become such a symbol of so many things, I was so surprised to hear you in the green room. Your voice when you speak to people is so soft.
Maybe that's because I can't hear very well and I can't tell how it's coming out.
Is that true? You have a hearing problem?
Yeah, from all the explosives in the Army and stuff like that. And, but you know, also people who speak I don't hear my voice. I don't hear the same voice you hear.
No, you never do hear the same. That's why radio announcers used to talk like this all the time, because they're actually trying to hear their own voice.
Yeah, the way others do, yeah.
Yeah, but I suppose also people, when we hear you, because you are the voice of CNN and you are Darth Vader, I think maybe people expect you to talk like that. And I hate to sound sort of naive, but I expected this big voice to come out, you know.
Yeah, it is not a production, you know. It's I mumble, I grunt and groan, and I stutter. I still stutter, you know. You do occasionally when you get tired. My aunt stutters, and I know that if very tired or anxious or something, is it moments like that when it causes? When you get an emotional overload of any sort, it's like narcolepsy or petit mal. Yeah. It trips in the brain, you know.
Do you have words? Are there certain words that you know, some people who, I forget who that very famous reporter is who works with Barbara Walters, actually admitted to the fact that he stutters, and there are certain words he can't say, so he's actually programmed himself not to use these words. Do you do that too?
The big M, the mama word, usually overloads most of us, you know.
Yeah, well, that's usually for other reasons, though, isn't it? All the emotional. I suppose and it's always amazing that sometimes when something tragic happens to somebody, the result of their life, I mean, the fact that your voice has become so famous for a kid that was mute for so much of his life is unbelievable.
But it's not an unusual story, is it? When you think of all the dancers and athletes who initially had a weak muscle. When you exercise a weak muscle, it often becomes your strong muscle and often dominates your life, whether you want it to or not, you know.
Yeah. So if there'd been something really wrong with me as a kid, I would turn out with some great ability. Unfortunately, you know, when you're sort of average.
There was nothing wrong with you?
No.
Oh.
I mean, well, nothing that was, you know, to make it great enough, you know. But you were mute for how long? Was it from age 6 to?
My folks would dispute that. They say, "Oh, James Earl, you talk to the dog." I heard him talk to the dog, and I did, yeah.
But you didn't talk to strangers? I
didn't talk to strangers, no. Yeah. It was just, kids are very pure in a way. One way or the other, either you talk or you don't talk. And if it's that painful and that embarrassing to talk, zip. And I just gave it up.
But you didn't stutter all your life. I mean, you were fine when you were a kid, and then all of a sudden, did you have a traumatic experience? Did something happen that you recall, or just? One
would assume it had something to do with the psychosocial stuff of the family. Right. But what I discovered later was that it was the being uprooted from a land that I had thought of as not an evil land, Mississippi, the place of my birth. But when I returned in my 40s, I discovered I had a great warmth about that land, and that was the wrenching, that was the trauma of being ripped from that land, the land that my bare child's feet had touched, you know.
Are you also dyslexic?
I reckon, yeah. I think I've never been tested, but I think that's a part of it. I can't read. I really have a hard time reading.
You know how I know this? I know that you do books on tapes. And I work in that field, and someone had told me that you were one of the best readers, but that you had, sometimes when you do it, you have a bit of a problem with the words.
I can't string narrative together unless I practice. That's why actors memorize.
So how do you do all these parts?
We memorize them, you know.
So you overcome this by you have the extraordinary memory.
Have you read books on tape? Yeah.
I haven't read them. No, I work in the company and I help people record them. And I'm a big fan of books on tapes. And
oh, so am I.
Yeah.
And I admire actors who can do them, or announcers who can do them. But I don't have that facility.
Because
it's partly
of your
because
dyslexia.
I think the neurology of stutterers, the neurology of deaf mutes, is quite different from the neurology of other people, because all the brain stuff, it's like repatching circuitry, and we're quite different in the way we think. For instance, think of the Native Americans who initially signed things all the time. They conceptualize differently. Yeah.
Sure, because if you do it this way, you're thinking on a different plane.
Yeah.
So you must have, I mean, understanding the fact that you have a problem with speech and you have a problem with dyslexia, language is something that you love. So you went to the written word. You also must have an extraordinary determination, like I got to find a way around this.
Yeah, but if you turn a 14-year-old loose on anything, it becomes a toy. Richard Burton, who spoke Welsh, he told me, until he was 14. And he discovered English at the age of 14, and what a toy that was for him, you know. A new thing to play with, you know. And so I rediscovered speech at the age of 14, and great toy, yeah.
It was, and it was
a
a
great
teacher?
delight.
It was a teacher that did it?
Yeah, and I thought every student had one of those.
Yeah, every student should have one of those.
Yeah, a
Tell
teacher
us
who, huh?
Tell us about her.
A hymn.
Oh, it was a hymn, sorry.
Big, tall, white mustache. He was a compatriot of Robert Frost. He had been a college professor. He taught college, and he retired to this farm in Brethren, Michigan. He was also a Mennonite. And he couldn't stand the idea that down the road these kids were trying to learn Chaucer and Shakespeare. So he dropped his plow and came back to teach high school, you know. And that's when I entered that high school, and he discovered that I not only loved poetry, I wrote poetry privately, secretly. And he challenged me one day. He said, this poem is so good, I think you didn't write it. I think you plagiarized it. So to prove you wrote it, get up in front of the class and recite it to us by heart. And of course I did, and I didn't stutter. He says, aha, now we have a way to recover this power of speech. He couldn't stand the idea that a kid could love poetry and not be able to sound it out loud, you know.
What was it about the poetry that you loved so much? Was it because you loved it so much that it stopped you stuttering? Or is the cadence of poetry?
Yeah.
You know, stutterers, if they sing, like what's his name, the famous cowboy singers, who's Mel somebody.
Tillits, yeah.
Yeah, Mel Tillis, he stutters, but if you sing, you don't stutter.
Yeah.
And if you have a cadence in your voice and you talk like this, the stutter goes away.
I think that's the main factor. We stutterers can get through rhyme and rhythm. I think also poetry and song are probably more innate to human beings than speech is. Speech is a very recently acquired tool.
You mean before we spoke, we were saying poetry and singing?
I think we sang, yeah. We sang, we grunted, we groaned, we moaned, sweet nothings, and so on, you know.
A type of singing, yeah, primitive singing, that would make some sense.
Yeah.
Do you remember that poem, that first poem that you wrote that you had to recite?
It was a poem I wrote, remember?
Yeah, but do you remember it?
It was mercifully lost.
You think that highly of it?
In fact, I was in my home county in Michigan recently, and somebody found it. I think Professor Crouch's grandniece or somebody.
Oh.
Discovered it, and I lost it again recently.
Gee, thank you very much for that poem. Is it when you found this voice, when you found the poetry? Were you out? Would you go out in the fields and practice with this voice? Would you go out there and? Mm-hmm. I have this wonderful picture of you standing out in the fields at age 14, discovering this incredible voice, and it must have been extraordinary.
Well, my dad, who I didn't really know at that time, but he has since told me that he became an actor because as a school kid, he was the loudest kid in class. That caused your career right away. You become
You're
an actor.
actor.
Yeah, right. And in a way, we farm kids were never told to hush, you'll wake the neighbors. We were told to use your voice to call the hogs, call the cows, you know. And so out there in the field was a good place to work, and nobody would. It's like singing in the bathtub, you know, in the shower. Nobody's going to criticize you because they can't hear you.
When did you discover the voice? I mean, this You know, because it is your instrument, because you use your voice, like some people can play a musical instrument, you know, when did you discover this booming, deep bass, incredible ability that...
Well, that happened. See, I didn't talk from the age of 4.5 to 14, and suddenly, when I started talking, it was a different sound.
But when you started to talk, when did you discover that this thing was like a fine musical instrument?
Oh,
I
no,
mean,
no.
You're not like just the average voice here.
I'm discovering it every time I open my mouth. It is just noise. I mean, speech is at worst noise, unless you're saying something interesting.
When did you find interesting things to say? When did you get into acting? How did that come for you?
Other writers, you know, things that I would never imagine saying, you can find being said in some great novel or some great play or great movie. And that's the thrill of being an actor. You can say, well, you can also say things that you would get arrested for in real life, you know.
To get a smile on your
or
face
declared insane, huh?
Yeah.
What?
Is that the part you enjoy the most?
Yeah, the things that you'd be declared insane for, yeah.
You've also done some roles that, there's a story that when you did Of Mice and Men, you did Lenny, and it was actually, because there were not at one point a great deal of roles for black men, so you were playing Lenny, which was not originally written for black men. And did you have a discussion with JD Salinger about this?
With the author of Mice and Men. His name will come to me in a minute. And I can't let it pass though about roles for black people. They're not roles for Native Americans. I can't separate the minorities, including women. There never have been enough roles for any of the minority people, you know. And that's a condition that if you're in a majority culture, you have to accept to some extent. But you also got to keep encouraging the breadth of kinds of roles, you know.
That role, Lenny, though, was for a white man, and here you are, a black man playing it. Did you go and say, is this okay? I mean, does anybody mind here, folks?
Well, I called. Why am I blocking on his name?
I don't know, because I said Salinger, and I gave you the role. Who wrote Of Mice and Men? John Steinbeck.
John Steinbeck. We got
Thank you very
Salinger
much.
on their brain.
I don't know. Yeah, sorry.
John was still alive then, and I called him and I said, Mr. Steinbeck, there's a scene. If I play Lenny, I'm a black man. There's a scene where the word nigger is used in his presence, and I said, what would you suggest? That we change it, or would you change it? Would you consider rewriting it? And he said, look, Lenny is a dummy. He's I mean, he was not embarrassed about words like dummy, words like idiot, were once official scientific names for people who were impaired mentally. He says, Lenny is a dummy. He doesn't know what the word nigger means. That's a socially very sophisticated concept, you know, when you think about it, that a word can be used to insult somebody. And Lenny used to be insulted this way, you know, not somebody being subtle and sophisticated and saying, you know.
Sure.
So he said, no, just play it like it is. And we did, and it worked. You know.
Lou Gossett Jr. made the comment that there are still not a lot of great roles around for black actors, but now there's a lot of great black actors, and we're all fighting for the few great roles that are left, right? Do you find that to be true?
Lou and I are of a generation preceding us. There was Harry Belafonte and Sidney Poitier.
Yeah,
and people like Sidney established the height to which one can go in this profession, and he left it up. He left it for us to establish the breadth, you know. And there were a number of us, and that was one of the great things about it. It wasn't that we were competing; we all felt different. Maybe to that world, the producers, these are the choices you have. You can have Jones or Gossett or whatever. But we didn't think of it that way. We thought there's work out there for all of us, you know. And we won't burn ourselves out by being competitive. We'll just simply forge ahead, develop our talents, and encourage the breadth of roles, you know.
Of your roles that you've done, I don't know if you have favorites. I mean, I look at you, and certainly Darth Vader was the one that made you, oh, hey, everybody know, you know, that was it. But Field of Dreams, was that a particular, yeah. See, these are our favorites, but...
There's the JD Salinger connection right there. That role was...
You were JD Salinger in that,
well,
that's right.
Kinsella, who was a Canadian
right.
writer, he wrote, his fantasy was if you had a chance to kidnap somebody for one day, who would you kidnap? He said, JD Salinger.
Right.
And he gave that fantasy to Ray, the character that Kevin Costner plays, that JD Salinger was a baseball aficionado. He would kidnap him and bring him to Iowa to help solve the mystery of the cornfield. But JD Salinger informed the producers that whereas the novelist got away with it in the novel, he would not allow the film to use his name. So they had to change the character from J.D. Salinger to somebody.
Kinsella. But you were supposed to be originally J.D. Salinger. Right?
Yeah, played by John Lithgow, you know.
Do you have a preference for the stage or for film or for you as an actor? Is it just to work?
Most of us who are trained in the theater don't have preferences, but it's just that we were trained there and we kind of know what we're doing better. I love film. I love TV. You know, I just don't do enough of it, and I am really a novice. But
excuse me?
Yeah, it's like, you know,
a novice?
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. I know. It's not modesty either. It's a fact. I've not been in front of the camera enough.
And the TV camera?
And that's not a complaint even.
How do you find this camera different than?
Well, it's okay now because I can talk to you, and you have a great presence. You know, it's wonderful to relate to you.
Thank you.
You make me stutter. You're really.
I make you stutter. You make my heart flutter.
Oh, okay.
We're even here.
Okay. But if the camera got in between us, like it does on close-ups, I'm saying, I'm trying to find you, and that thing's in the way, and I've never gotten used to that. Close-ups are a nightmare.
Oh.
Until recently, you know.
Extraordinary. This is a wonderful book. This is a book of hardship and incredible struggle and a story of a young man's family who goes back into the depths of slavery and a child with problems who overcomes and, holy cow, becomes one of the great symbols.
Yeah, just plain old Jim.
Just plain old Jim, yeah. Just.
I used to go to rap parties, and the people would say, what do you do? Are you an electrician? I mean, the unlikely actor, you know, unlikely to be an actor.
Who became one of the finest actors of our time and one of the great men of our time. It's been such an honor to meet you. Mr. James Earl Jones.